And then once you've entered, hey, that looks, we're gonna have to start giving Nathan some technological cred here at some point here if this starts actually working.
Yeah.
And then once you've entered, hey, that looks, we're gonna have to start giving Nathan some technological cred here at some point here if this starts actually working.
Yeah.
And then once you've entered, so go ahead and close the window that has that shown. It'll keep going in the background. We're gonna have to start giving Nathan some technological cred here at some point here if this starts actually working.
Yeah.
And then once you've entered, go ahead and close the window that has that shown. It'll.
There we go. Everybody still hear me?
Yep, hear you loud and clear.
Wow, that was
loud and clear.
interesting. So yeah, it automatically opens the YouTube window and I had playback on it. And, okay.
Yeah, the stream is still going. It's just because you were viewing the stream and it was delayed and you had your mic unmuted, it was looping back through. But I'm looking at it on my side. It appears to be there and live, so I think we're good.
Okay, good deal. Okay, well, I think we have everybody, maybe not Levi, he usually chimes in. 7:05 and everything is working correctly, so let's go ahead and get started. We do have a couple of people, so Tim's on here with us. I'm going to ask that we, if the council doesn't mind, to move Tim to the front. He can obviously choose to stay on if he wants, but that way he doesn't have to wait through everything else. So if you guys are okay with that, I'm going to scoot. Go ahead and recognize any visitors beforehand if they wish to be recognized. They can go ahead and state their name at any time.
Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Denise Halling. Denise Halling.
Okay.
Tim Tipton.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Jay Gossett.
Hi, Jay.
Jay.
Okay. Well, we got a few of you on here with us. Thank you guys for joining us. Let's go ahead. We'll go through and see if we have any additions to the agenda, and then we'll move on to Tim here. So is there any additions to the agenda? Nothing from the council. I just have one here. I want to know. I want to just advise the council of the date for the 2021 budget amendment. Okay. Well, we'll keep moving. So we'll skip the minutes and the bills for now. Tim, you're here with us now. We'll go ahead and skip down to the Novia project water hookup cost. So everybody should know we got water into 3 properties there actually, and one of them was the vacant lot project there, and so I brought Tim on with us to kind of explain where they're at. We had talked about at the previous meeting whether, since that is a city owned property, whether we would charge the grant project, the money involved there for hooking up water and sewer. And I believe, Stephen, you'd said kind of something along the lines of, yes, we should, but maybe we should have a representative from that committee to kind of talk to us and, I don't know, kind of plead their case, if you will. So with that, Tim, I'll go ahead and give you the floor and kind of let you say what you need to say.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Luck. Our group, our little ad hoc committee, for this project, we met this past Saturday and got together and discussed, our next steps moving forward, coming into the spring to finish this project, later this summer. So Nathan had made me aware about the water that was hooked up to that lot. And we discussed budget stuff with our committee, and the budget is tight. So there is money in the budget for water and sewer, meaning water being supplied to the bathroom that is going to be there, and the sewer. When the project began, part of the grant writing was, some community and in-kind work to be done when we did the original budget. And with the budget being tight, I guess the gist of the group discussion was any funds that the city could absorb or invest into their property with the town square project, is recommended by us. That's it would make, possibly with how tight the budget is, whatever those funds are, could be used into other things to complete the project. I don't know what the total is, of what, the city did work wise, what that would cost, but just moving forward with moving that project along with our next steps, there would be, before bringing the bathroom there, it's like the city park bathroom, just one size, just one unisex one, not double. There is site work that would be getting the electricity, which we're working with Kaiser with that. We have a meeting with them on the 22nd of this month. And the water connection to the bathroom, the stub up for that, and the sewer, working with the city, any funds, that can be invested back into that project and not come out of the grant. Like I said, the budget is tight. I believe we have $3,000 in there right now for water and sewer that is left. Again, I can't stress, the budget is tight on that. So that's kind of where our group falls on that. But I mean, I'll leave it for discussion there or more questions. And our group plans to meet and get together every Saturday until we get the ball rolling on, because there's quite a bit of groundwork that has to be done before the bathroom can be brought there, site preparation, electricity, conduit, and stuff like that run. And that we're focusing on that right now, so that all of our ducks are in a row when that bathroom building can be brought there, that all that is ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Council, do you have any questions or comments for Tim, or anything that I can try to answer? He he said he wasn't sure on the amount there. I believe Janice can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the invoice was in your package there, and it was somewhere around $4,700. So it's definitely not cheap, but I would just kind of ask for any questions or comments from the council this time, for myself or Tim.
Yeah, this is Peter. I have a question.
Sure, go
The list of components that you just alluded to, Nathan, for the project, are those expenses that will come out of the city's budget, or how will they be reimbursed or compensated or paid, please?
Yeah, so that's kind of the deal here that we're going through with right now, asking Tim and talking with him. Those currently have come out of the city's budget. Tim kind of explained that some of that was originally written in the grant as a city trying to back that project and absorb as much of those costs as we can. But the parts that have already been purchased that you see on that list have directly come out of the city's budget.
Okay, thank you. Have they one more question. Have they already been paid? Have we acquired the components?
Yes, yep. They have been purchased and are currently in the ground. The water is supplied to that lot.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, did I hear you say that you thought that the amount that you guys had left in the budget for water and sewer was about 3,000?
Yeah, and there's a few different items in the budget that aren't exact amounts. They were estimates, and one of them is the bathroom tying what that cost. It's roughly $30,000 to ballpark it just for the building, and the other would be the water and irrigation. So one of the other items that was budgeted for was the gazebo that is there now, that was a grain bin silo. And there is some flexibility within there because at the time when that budget was put together, we weren't sure exactly what it was going to cost to turn that into what it is. So there is some flexibility in some of these items I would say over the next month with our group getting together, that we will have a line for line estimate for what Kaiser would be doing as far as all the electrical stuff that would be ran from the gazebo, the electrical outlets, and then supplied to the bathroom as well as the light poles. Because those figures they've all been verbal bids at this time. There's nothing in writing. So
Sure.
I would say within another month, possibly before the next, at the next council meeting, that those figures could be, a little more accurate of exactly what they would cost for those next coming plans.
Nathan, so I'm guessing that this invoice was put together as if we were going to bill any private citizen.
Correct.
But in this situation, being that this is the Innovia grant comes out of our own money anyways, I wouldn't imagine that tax at 8% would be applicable. And if that is true, I guess what I would come to it then in proposing is to have the Innovia grant cover the hardware costs without the tax and no labor, which means that they would be responsible for $3,111.71. And that puts them just a little bit over their $3,000 budget.
So Stephen, this is Justin. If we had to buy these, we had to pay the sales tax already. So this is not the city passing that money on. We had to purchase it. So if we were charged sales tax, I would assume that's what that is, if that's the case.
True. Okay. Good point. Okay. Still, I guess the thought that I'm with there is that in general, I mean, I'm not of the opinion that the city should decide to bear the entire cost, because that's part of what the original project and budget was for. It sounds like it went over their original budgeted item. I don't know that the city stands to cover all of that, in my opinion, but I'm willing to meet them, part way. And given that there is $1,300 of labor, I guess where I'd be at then would be the 3360.65.
Okay. Yeah, and I see that. That's a point well taken. The only other thing that I would kind of interject there is, unfortunately, this is just the water portion of it. There is going to be an expense to put sewer in as well. Is that something you think that we would go through the same process? Tim, your budget would include $3,000 total for both water and sewer, correct?
At this current time, yes, that was the estimate for the water connection, the water connection to the lot, and the sewer, and then the sewer ran to the bathroom location. That's the only location where water and sewer would need to be supplied.
Sure.
So yeah, yes.
And I just to make sure I have the situation well in hand as far as my understanding of it. I was under the impression that there was an original target amount set, and that there was going to match up to a certain amount, and that we went well over that certain amount. So when was the budget originally set? Was this a budget that was set at the beginning of the project before we knew how much money we were going to take in, or was this a budget that was set to the total amount that was taken in?
There was a proposed budget when it was a requirement for requesting for the grant with Innovia. And Innovia said they did a special challenge grant because they liked the project and where we were at, that they would put up $30,000 if we, as a challenge, that if the community then raised $30,000, they would match it. So we raised more than $30,000. We raised actually a little bit over 50. So they have the 30 to match that. And when that budget was put together, those were all high estimates of what it would cost to do it. And we have slowly, depending on who can be contributing to the project or in-kind funds, then changing that budget to what they accurately are. And now we're at that time of the next project. The next part of that project is these type of things, to where we're finding out exactly what they cost, whether who's doing them, whether it's the city or not, and then putting that into what our estimated budget was. So we have a current amount that we know that we have, or what we have spent, and the fund is still open to be donated to, but the challenge portion of it is gone. Like that 30,000 is already, they're not going to contribute anymore. They're already going to put the 30,000 forward.
I guess
So
what
they
I'm getting at though is that the budget was put together on an assumption or a hope that there would be $60,000 in total, and now we have the 50 that was raised locally plus the matching 30 for a total of 80.
Correct.
Okay, so
and
I'm just asking those questions to make sure I have the context in which I'm understanding where the costs will be bore and where money is or isn't. So I think I'd be that's where I'm at, Nathan, is that I would say hardware and the city would donate the labor.
Okay. Justin, you have a question?
Yeah, so is this the labor or the parts and the labor, is this only for the portion of the Innovia project, or is this all three of the new lots that this water went to, this water line?
This is the portion for the Novia, for the vacant lot.
So we had 35 man hours just on the city port, just on this Innovia lot portion for labor.
That's what it reads, yes. It was
Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
That
thank you.
is-
prices of the I did not realize what the prices of the hardware costs. Those are some high prices in my opinion. It's a lot of money, but yes.
This is Peter. I have a question about the toilets. I think you mentioned, Tim, that it's an projected cost of building the building is 30,000. Do we have the money for that in a bank?
yes,
Thank you.
it's in the grant fund, not a bank, but it's in the grant fund specifically for the project with Innovia. It's called a Harrington Community Fund for the Town Square project.
Okay, thank you.
So Stephen, am I correct that for the water portion you're good with your opinion is to charge the hardware, the parts and pieces, and then donate the labor? Would that be the same for the sewer portion as well going forward when we get to that point?
That would be my position at this time.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Yeah. This is Peter. I have a question about Stephen's proposal. You're suggesting that one budget be used to compensate the project for the hardware and another for labor?
No.
So my understanding of the situation that we have here is because the Inovia project, the town square project is being run through the city. This is the city's project. So really what we're talking about is, are we going to do an inter-fund charge to charge the fund for some of this work? And because this is an internal city project, we have the discretion to charge whatever amount we would wish, because this is not an external organization. This is about how much money we move within our internal funds. And so to that end, I would say that it sounds like if we were to charge them for the hardware and the labor for this, for both the water and the sewer, that would drastically impact their ability to put this project together. And so as it is, I'm sure that, Tim, you probably weren't super happy maybe with the proposal as it was, as far as the when you add sewer on top of the amount, that's probably still going to cause them some budget headaches. But I'm hoping this is a compromise where the city's not going to be on the hook for any purchased hardware for this particular project that was more aesthetic and not critical in nature. Whereas we can do what we can to try and make sure that this project comes to completion, and donating, well, on the water alone, it's the $1,300 worth of labor, and I'm sure the sewer will have some type of, or $1,400 worth of labor actually, and I'm sure on the sewer there will be a similar amount. So
Perhaps I misunderstood what Tim said. I understood, it was my understanding that the 30,000 from Inovia has been expended, has been spent already
No,
in a fund.
that's incorrect. Meaning, like, they're not putting any more forward. They were putting, if we didn't raise 30, they weren't putting up 30. They would put up to $30,000 if we raised $30,000.
Yeah.
And we raised more than that. So they maxed out at their 30,000. That's what I meant by that.
But
But
that,
if we didn't raise the 30,000, they weren't going to match it. We had to raise at least 30,000
Yeah.
for them to contribute the 30,000.
so if they contributed the 30,000 and it sits in.
No, we have only spent $12,000 on the project roughly so far. So that it's all in the fund.
Okay,
It's roughly it's almost $81,000 total that was raised with what the community raised and what Inovia put forward, which is 30,000.
so about 68,000 of that is still in a bank account.
It's not a, I guess that's what you would call it. Whenever we need to pay anything for the project, we send an invoice for whatever work needs to be done to Inovia, showing what the total is, and they write a check to the city of Harrington based off of that invoice. And the city of Harrington has a pass-through fund specifically for this project, and then the city pays out of that for the work that is being done, because it is a city-owned lot.
Okay,
So the water and the sewer, from the beginning of this project, even before this grant, when we had a completely different mayor, different council and everything, before we even started with this project, the idea was, if we're going to try and make this project happen, anything the city can do to invest and help support this project was understood moving forward. Just when the idea was there, that it was, that they supported going forward with that. And then it's just turned into a completely different grant. It was always a concept idea for a project. Nothing's ever really been set in stone. It's kind of been done that way. And then last year with COVID was just kind of a wash. So our group is trying to be more proactive for when spring comes around to complete this project this year under the best circumstances, again, with restrictions with COVID.
okay, thank you.
So I have a question. If how there would need to be some if it moves forward with the city wants for whatever that total is that you guys are discussing to pay back into the city, I guess, for how would that be? Some type of invoice or something would have to be shown to Innovia so that then they can cut a check to the city, correct? And then it just goes into that fund, and then the city would then pay back what it's paid into it.
Yeah, I
From
think
how
we would end
I
up,
understand it.
yeah, I think on the billing process, I think we would write the correct amount, send to Novia, and then they would reimburse the city, and it would just go from the Novia pass-through grant, the line item into a different account with the city. But as far as logistics, yes, we could do that if that's what the council chooses to do.
One more question, if I may. I'd
Yeah.
like
God,
to
you fucking-
understand a little bit more clearly what's going on. How is the decision made as to which fund gets done? What expenses are charged against which fund? We have 30,000 from Innovia potentially. We have, I think you said 50,000 from the community.
It's all in one fund through
Okay,
Innovia. It's all in one fund through Innovia.
okay,
They just put up 30,000 of that total number as a challenge grant. It's a special type of grant.
This is a pass-through line item on our budget for the Novia for the vacant lot project. So it would just be reimbursed. We would write a check out of that or send an invoice to Novia. They would reimburse that, and then that would go into our proper funds for whatever funds we need it to go in to cover the expenses. So it'd probably be water and sewer.
okay.
So Peter, to elaborate on that a little bit more, the stuff that that has been paid for out of that project so far, which was the remnant wall, the brickwork that was done at the end of 2019, the hardware and stuff that was purchased for the grain bin gazebo, the excavation of the lot, and all the trees that were purchased,
Uh-huh,
all of those things, as each one was done, an invoice was presented to Innovia, and what they do is whatever that total is, they take half of that out of the 30,000 that they're putting in, and the other half out of the remaining. But it's in one fund, so it shows. Even when that 30, does that make sense? Like it's all in one fund. It's the same fund.
okay.
They just contributed $30,000
Yep.
to it. Does that make sense? I mean, it's the same fund.
That helps. I think I have a pretty good understanding now. Thank you.
The only other thing I would like to add, is because I'm not speaking for myself here. I'm speaking for the group with this project, and the group just wanted to, they wanted to add that they would like the city to have all the costs paid for put in towards that of the sewer and the water.
Okay,
That's just the gist that came from the meeting, that because it's a city project that was approved to move forward with trying to raise funds for that. It's kind of been a fluid type of ordeal the whole time. So I understand that there is city costs, but that is the consensus of the group. I don't know if Jay Gossett, he's part of that group. I don't know if he's still here at the time, but he is one of the members from that group from the beginning as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, Tim.
I'm still here.
Yeah, Tim. Yeah, I think the consensus of the group was that because it's a city-owned property, any investment in that property benefits the city. I mean, we're adding to the development of the downtown area, the core area, that would help, which would help the downtown businesses, and anything that the city could do to help offset some of the cost of developing that property for them, I think would be beneficial.
Sure.
Nathan, this is Justin. So to what both Tim and Jay just said, so two things. I guess my general assumption was, well, that we had money, or that there was money in the Inovia project had money to do this, but from the city perspective, we didn't budget any of this stuff that I'm aware. I mean, no one came to the city in 2020 or last year basically and said, hey, this is what we have going on. And this is what we, maybe we want you to do this. So I mean, obviously we can amend a budget if we have to, but I'm not aware that the city was asked to contribute any like real dollars. I mean,
Sure.
I think in kind things like the labor is in kind. That's one thing, but just so we have to keep that or consider that as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
understood. I mean, Stephen, we kind of know where you stand. What's the thought on the rest of the council? I mean, I see both sides of that. I'm kind of on the fence here. I would obviously like to be able to absorb all the costs and save that money for other things. If we could, we would probably then have to amend the budget because there was no specific money set aside for this. And then second of all, just to kind of let everybody know that's on the call, that's a lot more money than I thought it would be just in parts. I mean, those parts are really pretty high. So what's kind of the
Yeah.
consensus here? I guess we could entertain a motion either way and vote, or just kind of get a straw poll of how the rest of the council feels on the subject. Do we want to absorb all the costs there and then amend the budget and find the money? Or are we looking at, going with Steven's version and letting the labor be in kind and then charging the project for the hardware?
Could I add one quick thing before you guys comment on that? Originally, when the project was started and the grant was written, that's not through Inovia. We didn't get the first grant. It was a different mayor and a different council at that time. But the mayor that, when I did this first grant that I worked with, I was told that there was $2,500 in the Parks and Rec part of the budget. I didn't see anything, but that's just what I was verbally told. Now, this, mind you, was in 2018, before we even got this grant that we're currently talking about. So
Okay.
That's all I wanted to add to the.
And I don't have the budget in front of me. I'd have to look and see what is in there for sure in the Parks and Rec. But I mean, I think it's something that we could do, or we could make happen if we wanted to go that way. But I just kind of I'd either entertain a motion one way or another, or just if any of the other council members have some input of just what they'd like to see happen here. Okay. Stephen, do you want to entertain a motion and vote on what you had went through earlier?
Yeah, so I guess I would say that at this time I would propose that the Inovia grant would be charged for the hardware costs and that labor would be donated as in-kind hours.
This is Levi, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
This is Peter. I have a question. I don't understand what you mean by in-kind hours. That's provided by whom, Stephen?
Provided by the city to itself. Because this is the city's project and the city's employees.
So we would end up not charging the project fund for the labor.
I see. So the city pays the city employees or the employees who have provided labor, or is that does in-kind imply that they're contributing their labor or no charge?
We would be paying the labor that it took to complete this portion of the project out of our other funds, not the Novia grant fund line item.
Hey, Nathan, this is David. I just got a quick question. Is there entertain any putting any caps on this? How much labor the city is obligated to, or is obligated in this project?
We certainly could. We could do something like that. I haven't went through that prior to now, no, but that could be an option if we wanted to go that route. Okay. Any more discussion?
Peter will second.
Nathan, this is Justin. I have a question, discussion item or discussion piece. So regardless, this is just to throw it out there too, but regardless now with the motion on the table to donate in-kind labor hours, I mean, even I'd say now, and it just for the water portion here, it's, I think Steven said 14, it's about 1350 or something like that. And then the sewer, I mean, we didn't budget for that either. So no matter what we do, we're probably going to have to open up this in the budget later this year to amend, regardless if it's just the in-kind donation of the labor or if it's other fees.
Given that we budget for paying those salaried employees for a full year, what would we be amending the budget to say?
Well, just because there's extra money here. So, I mean, I get, and unless there's already, available funding in there, but we do pay the employees for sewer and for water, but this is like this is additional. I mean, if they didn't work 35 man hours on this project, they would have used that 35 man hours somewhere else in.
You're right.
Correct, but I don't see how that becomes a budgeting concern. That would become a concern of the prioritization. Are you talking about what budgets it's getting paid? Because their salaries accumulated from multiple budgets, right? So are you saying that because this is not working on houses that they would have to have a change in the budget? Because I guess I'm not understanding what type of a budgetary change we would actually be making.
So in my time on the council, the sewer fund and the water fund have always been very tight at the end of the year. So this is this is money that we did not consider. So say it doubles this. So say this is $1,400 and say the next thing is $1,400. So it's $3,000 total extra. I don't know, again, at the end of the year, there might be, potentially it could be $3,000 short because we worked on this budget. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that we didn't consider any of this in our budget this year that I'm aware of. I mean, even in our hours budgeted for sewer and for water. So, I mean, there's so many hours that 2,000 man hours per person, roughly say, if they didn't.
Okay.
It might be there. And so what
I'm seeing,
Michael's just saying too, a possible
yeah,
amendment to the budget, which I'm saying is fine. But we also talked earlier, like if we want to amend the budget to add the other costs. So, I mean, if we decided to pay for other things as well. So that was all the point was that no matter what now at this point, we will have to potentially amend a budget at some point in the year.
Hey, Justin, this is Dave. I got a quick question for you. Does this fall under the lines of for auditing purposes of how much is spent on what department at all? When you were talking about the
I mean,
budget?
our budget right now, I mean, we have allocated for the 2021 budget,
Right.
We allocate X amount of dollars or hours, and how we created that, how they're like where the salaries are going to be paid throughout the year, the estimate is. So I don't think and Nathan can correct me, but I don't think we estimated or planned for this to be this way. And again, it's 3,000. I mean, potentially it could be $3,000 of labor. I don't, that's again, rough estimates here. So that's all I'm just saying is it.
Okay. Well, I agree with you. The only thing my 2 cents is, David, is that we're starting on something, but where's the end of the finish line? How much more going forward are we going to get nickel and dime to death, or on the hook for, or both sides? I mean,
Okay.
I've never seen blueprints, or I mean, I've just, I don't know if whomever is getting bids for people, or are they just picking somebody out of the phone book to do this? I don't know any of that background information, and I just don't know how much we're going to get involved with this whole thing.
Well, this portion is done
Water
by the
and sewer.
employees. So Scott and Charlie are the guys doing the work and hooking this up. The parts that we bought are the parts that they needed to install the water, and then that's Scott and Charlie's labor, and of course our equipment labor. So as far as the people doing it, I mean, it's us. But going forward with however this comes out on this portion of it for the sewer, if we want to go the same route, if we charge a Novia grant for just the parts, and then we donate, I mean, we amend the budget to donate our labor, or whether we charge the whole thing or none of it, that's something I think we can set in stone before that work's done. But this portion, has been completed. So.
And Nathan, does anybody have an estimate on the sewer? I know we kind of touched on it, but I mean, for sure.
No, we have not.
Closer. I mean, we're just shooting blind there. So, some of that could run into some big bucks, depending.
Sure.
That would be my only concern. So if we say we want to, we'll absorb the cost on part of it. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen any sketches or blueprints or layouts or costs of anything. It's just been all as you go.
Sure. Well, I think going forward, we need to maybe do something different with the sewer than, to get it kind of an idea of cost. Right now, I'd go ahead and just see if we can vote yay or nay on this portion of Stephen's motion to charge the Novia grant, the parts and pieces, and then donate the labor. And then we will obviously may or may not have to deal with the labor part in the budget later. So we have a motion from Stephen and seconded from Levi. At this time, all in favor of voting yes to charge the Novia grant, just the parts for the portion that has been completed, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, I think that was everybody, all 5, correct? Okay.
Yep, I heard 5.
Okay. Any no votes, please signify by saying aye. Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, council. Going forward, we will get a plan together to do the sewer part of it, so that we don't run into the same kind of hang up. Make sure that we have an idea and a plan going forward. Tim, thank you for getting on and chatting. Obviously, you can stay and hang out with us, but appreciate you getting on and talking, and Jay as well.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Nathan?
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I mean, the city should know where the sewer line is, and they know where the project's going. They know where the bathroom's going. I don't know why there's a big question on what kind of cost is going to be to get the sewer to that point. I mean, that should have been looked at the same time that the water line was done. So I guess I'm kind of at a loss for why there's a big question on what the cost of getting the sewer to that the same spot the water is at.
I just would like to put it down on paper and just talk with Scott. I mean, I've talked to him a little bit about where everything's at and what it entails. As far as prices of the parts,
Materials and
materials, want to get that nailed down so that we have a better idea, so it's not a surprise. I don't think, as far as logistics, I don't think that's a big problem, but it would be fair to have something in writing, at least an estimate, of costs. And just
I know, but I'm
so
just,
that we,
like I'm saying though, I mean, they knew where the water and they knew where the sewer had to be. So, I mean, at that time they should have, I would think, be proactive. They should have had those numbers already figured out. They should have said, you know, this is where the water's got to go. This is where the sewer's got to go. We got to go 30 feet to get to a sewer line. I would have thought that would have been part of the plan to provide water and sewer to the city lot.
sure, and originally it could have been. I mean, I don't know what was talked about previously when we did it. I mean, I don't know exactly what's needed as far as materials to get there, but that's something that I want to do. You know, definitely for the sewers to get that stuff down and talk with our public works guys and make sure that we do have that idea. I don't think it's an unknown. I just think that it's unknown just on my part.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we've known this project was coming on for quite some time, and it's like they knew they had to get the water there and knew they had to get the sewer there. I think they would have had some kind of game plan to do water and sewer at the same time and figure out this is what it's going to cost to get the water there and this is what it's going to cost to get the sewer there, and had that number up front to the city council and the mayor. So
sure.
I just got a question for everybody. Nathan,
Yeah.
David, is there a project engineer, let's say, or a head project manager over this that is in charge of doing all that?
Just
or has there been?
There's been a committee. There's a committee of people working on it. I mean, there's somebody that kind of did the design, but as far as an actual engineer, no. It's a committee of community members that work together to, you know, they worked with somebody to get the design, and I use that term as like what it'll look like when it's finished type of deal. And then there's some stuff that changes a little bit here and there as far as aesthetics, but no actual engineer.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about getting some high-priced engineer to go do it, but at least have a blueprint. You know, like the water's one thing, the sewer's another, and then the electrical. I mean, those utilities have to be kind of somewhat level or laid out to where everybody they know what's what.
Sure.
Yeah, we have. The committee has. There's 3 people on a committee that are in charge of helping put this project together as far as the logistics of getting the water, power, and sewer there, also with and coordinating with CXT, the people that are going to provide the building. So, and we're going to meet with Kaiser on the 22nd on the site to get a better idea of what CXT expects to be done before they deliver the building, and then where the water line and the sewer line has to come up there. So, I mean, like I said, there's no high-priced engineers involved, but we've got 3 people on the committee that's been involved with building different projects and stuff. So I think we're well covered in that aspect.
And then as far as the logistics for the utilities, I mean, not the electrical necessarily, but the water and sewer, I mean, that falls to the city, in my opinion. That's our job, or
right.
That's our niche
that's
what we need to be able to do.
You're talking for like a reference later, that where all that stuff is when it's done, years later, to have that on paper, or a blueprint of it.
That and beforehand, both. So both before it's put in the ground, whether it's sketch or something like that, and then going forward, we need just kind of on a different note, just for our mapping stuff, we need to be able to record that stuff accurately, just for that, just for future.
And could I ask, as soon as the city gets what the material is going to be for the sewer moving forward, which will be later on in the year, but of what that cost would be if we're going to do the same thing where we get the material cost out of the Innovia fund and then the in-kind is for the labor, so that I can plug those numbers into the budget, because we're trying to get the budget. The budget is tight for what we assumed for, and we're trying to get it as accurate as possible, in each step of the way. So the sooner I can get those numbers, then I can have a more accurate figure of, what would be remaining, or how much we're over budget, if that makes sense.
Yep, I can get together with the guys and we can get going on that. There's no reason that can't be done pretty quickly.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's jump back up on the agenda a little bit and try to get back in order. Let's go through the sets of minutes that we have for the January 13th and the January 29th meeting. You guys have questions or comments on those? I guess we'll go through the January 13th minutes first. If anyone's got anything, if not, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
This is
The-
Peter. So moved.
One point of discussion under the section of approval of meeting minutes. Second sentence, there was no further discussion. Motion passed 5-0. It should 5-0. Other than that, I'm good.
You just want a hyphen in between 5 and 0?
Yeah, just we didn't
Mine-
have 50 people vote, so I thought, why not?
Oh, mine shows a hyphen, so okay.
So does mine. Mine does too.
Wait, we're looking on the meeting minutes for the January 13th,
Correct.
Yes.
and this is the second paragraph under approval of meeting minutes for December 22nd. There was no further discussion. A motion passed 5-0.
-0. Yeah.
Yep.
Mine has.
David's has a 5-0.
Okay,
So does Justin.
apparently something is very strange for, okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. Peter, did you originally make a motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we have a motion.
Move the minutes for the January 13th meeting be accepted as presented.
Okay, do we have a second?
This is Justin.
David, second.
Justin, I'll take your second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving January 13th meeting minutes, signify by saying aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Okay, heard everybody. Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, guys. Move on to the January 29th meeting minutes.
This is Justin. I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented, seconded by Levi. Any more discussion on those? Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, heard everybody. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, guys. Okay, January bills. We'll try to go through these one by one, kind of document by document if we can. Any questions on the paid claims? Okay,
I have a question. Item 42, line 42. RMSA Association of Washington Cities, 32,000. Is that's a lot of money for membership? Maybe, perhaps we've seen this charge before, but what does that cover, please?
it does say membership, Peter, and I'm guessing that should be the insurance premium. Is that correct, Janice?
This is Justin, but I'll say
Correct.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. Yes.
So I guess it is, well, it's not a membership, I guess, but RMSA, our insurance, that would be the insurance premium, Peter. So it is, I see where it's confusing there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I have one, Nathan, on transaction 53,
53.
number 53.
Yep.
Springbrook Holding Company. I haven't seen that one before. What is that for?
So
9,721.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought it up actually. So that's our Bias software. Bias was recently purchased or bought out by Springbrook, and so that is, you'll see that name instead. We've used Bias, and that's what I mean. I still use that word, but that is their
Okay.
new company name.
Okay.
And I called it Springbrook for about the first month. So Janice corrected me and told me that there is an R in there. It is Springbrook.
Or just call it spring trout, same thing, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay. How about payroll? Any questions on there? Okay. How about the unpaid claims there, the last document that you guys have?
I guess the only question I would have, I think it'd be under, if these are all in order, the MKB Lawn Care, number 84. I don't have.
So that is our monthly check that's written to MKB that we pay them throughout the year. So there's a charge for the
Okay.
season that they perform services, but they asked, I think Justin was mayor when they asked to be paid monthly.
I got you. I just didn't know. I know we've had a mild winter per se, but I didn't think anybody was out mowing lawn yet.
No,
So that makes sense.
growing that quick.
Yeah, and we also, we pay in arrears, so they've already done all the services. And we're just paying them off, and they're okay. So we don't pay in advance. We just pay for in arrears, but they, like Nathan said, they wanted a 12-month. They asked us to pay them on a 12-month basis instead of a 8-month basis or whatever.
Okay, makes sense.
Nathan, I had a question.
Sure.
On item line 81.
Yep.
For sewer supply, is any of the costs that we just talked about? So are these costs here somehow associated with the Inovia project? Any of that money, or are these just general sewer and street?
I believe those are just general. I don't remember if there was any parts purchased through Truck and Auto for that project, but I believe those are just general stuff that
You're
doesn't
correct,
have
Nathan.
to do with. Okay. Yeah. So that's just our general stuff outside of that project.
This is Peter. I have a question with regard to healthcare expense.
Okay.
My understanding is we changed systems and employees are now paying for their own healthcare. Is that the case?
No. So we still carry health insurance through the same place that we did last year, which would be our what's the correct term? It's through the insurance pool. What we did was just capped the amount that the city pays. So we were currently paying for the entire health insurance. This year we are paying for $600 of that premium per month. So
Okay.
it was capped at 600.
Yeah, my misunderstanding, my error.
Oh, no problem.
Nathan, this is Justin. I'll make a motion to accept these if there's no other questions.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the bills.
I have one quick question. Line 88 with Tim Tipton reimbursement for paver bricks. That's for the project, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
This is Peter.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I'll second Justin's motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none, I would ask for everyone voting yes to signify by saying aye.
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 You may not have heard me. This is Peter. I vote aye too.
Okay. All, okay, if that's everybody, is there any no votes? Signify by saying aye. Okay, got everybody. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, guys. Okay, Novi project is out of the way. Mayor update. So I got a couple things I want to run through quickly before we get to the committee list. So Janice kind of ran me through this today. I just wanted to let you guys know where we're at. We have some ongoing and some somewhat new insurance claims. The City Hall roof at this point has been repaired as of today. It is completed, and we've been reimbursed for that and wrote the check for that as well. The Memorial Hall roof did sustain some damage on the south wall, where on the parapet there on the roof. So we are working to get that repaired as well. That's in the process, getting some bids and getting all the stuff figured out with insurance. So you'll probably hear a little bit more about that, but that's just kind of a FYI. The sidewalk at the hotel. So I don't know, this was numerous months ago, but we had a power line down there and it damaged the sidewalk up there. That has been put through insurance and okayed. We have somebody to do the work. We're just waiting for the weather to break a little bit. So I'll kind of keep you guys updated on that as well. And unfortunately, we have one more claim out. The street light that got damaged just north of the hotel. That has also been put through insurance. We're just waiting on the company to get everything sent to us. They're going through and getting parts and pieces and making sure the paint matches and all that, kind of the same stuff that we went through on some of the other ones. But with COVID, there has been some delays, but it's out of our hands. We're waiting on that. So we got everything taken care of. It's just we're gonna have to wait on a few of those. But those are just kind of
Nathan?
updates. Yeah.
David, do we have a rough estimate how much each light pole or luminaire costs? What they're worth? Roughly.
About $5,700.
Okay, doke.
Not cheap.
Those things are starting to be expensive.
Yeah.
I got a question
Nathan?
on. Oh, go ahead.
The inside insurance claim too for the city hall.
Oh, yeah. So the roof that got torn up on the back of City Hall from the windstorm then provided an area for water to leak into City Hall. So that is a separate insurance claim. That's how the insurance wanted to do it. They wanted to do an inside claim and an outside claim. So that is another one on there as well, but that's being taken care of hopefully by the end of the week. I don't know if you guys have been in here, you've seen or heard the fans going and the filters and stuff. So that's being taken care of as well. Thank you for the reminder.
Question, Nathan.
Sure.
Is one company doing both repairs to the city hall and the memorial building?
Yes. Yes and no. So the roof part of it, both the City Hall and the Memorial Hall have been okayed through insurance. Diamond Construction completed City Hall today, and then we'll be moving forward. They will be the one repairing the Memorial Hall as well. There's also some damage to the bricks right on the top of the Memorial Hall roof, where that cap came off and damaged some of the brick there. So there will be also another contractor. So there's two contractors on the Memorial Hall. But
A question with regard to the damaged light pole. Is it on the east or west side of Third? Or
west side.
And when was it damaged?
It's been a little while. It was when the work was going on at the hotel, so it's been a few months. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Do we know who,
October.
thank you. Do we know who caused the damage?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Will they be charged then?
Their
The
insurance.
insurance company will contact.
Okay. Thanks.
Hopefully we can wash our hands of streetlights for a while. Had a bad run with those, but so those are. I'll keep you guys updated on the other stuff that hasn't been finished or that isn't finished at this time. But that was just a quick update on those. Let's move on to the committee to-do list. I sent you guys an email quite a while ago, just some stuff that I had jotted down. It turned into a little bit more than I originally planned, but and then checked back in with you guys via email. I didn't hear too much. I've had a few return emails and some questions on it, but I kind of want to turn this over to you at this point, just to see if you guys have any questions on it. If there's something that doesn't make sense, or timing, or maybe even some results. If you guys have been able to meet or send me an email. I know I got a email from Levi today. He's done some work on the building stuff for the cemetery, so I just kind of want to open it up to you guys and for questions, comments, things, anything like that.
Nathan, this is Levi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I did get a hold of Stacy Rasmussen. She was going to check and see if she had any pictures. If she does, she's going to get them to Janice this week. If not, I'm going to get back in touch with her, and I'll talk to you and see if we can find a good time to get some more pictures of the truck taken.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Where's that truck located at, Levi or Nathan?
Should be in the old
Where's
state shed.
Yeah, I believe it's in the state shed.
Okay, down there. Yeah, on the northwest end of town.
Yeah, just north
Yeah.
of Via Block. What is that? It's terrible. I don't even know that cross street, but right off Third there.
The road going to Coffee Pot.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, to Rockland. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so sounds like we're making some progress on that. I don't know if we want to go through here item by item or just kind of guys if you have any questions or comments on stuff. I want to get these down and just get working on some of them and make sure there's some follow through on stuff, and mainly so we don't forget or let it slide by for 6 or 8 months at a time.
Are you talking about committee assignments, Nathan?
Yes.
Okay.
Nathan, I'm going to stop by and talk to you one day. I just want to make sure I know which streets are on the transportation improvement plan. I haven't stopped by and talked to you about that, but I do need to do that. And as far as the property to liquidate, I want to come by and see which pieces, aside from the one over here by my house that we're talking about.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. And I'm willing. Any of these items, guys, if you want to get together and meet, just get a hold of me, or we can do it if you want to work together on your own. Either way. So.
Okay. And as far as replacing the cemetery shed, but I sent you the options in that email today. I have no idea what the cost would be for buying the raw materials and having someone do it ourselves. I don't know if that would even be an idea to consider, but.
Sure. I think that one we definitely need to come up with what we want to do.
Right.
Nailed down exactly what we want to do. Obviously the Lions Club comes into play a little bit here, or could potentially. So that's something I think we need to go forward with, just figuring out exactly what we're going to do with the building. Should we replace it, rebuild it, buy a prefab one, whatever the case may be there.
Right. Okay.
With regard to community relations, Davenport, I see you're soliciting input from the committee, but it occurs to me that the committee may not know everything about future meetings and get-togethers and other events. So it might be helpful to discuss that at the meeting before that is the council meeting, before those bills go out, 2 or 3 weeks before the bills are mailed. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
The kind of intent there was just to, and Janice does a pretty good job already without us interjecting too much of getting stuff on those bills. But I just wanted to be able to utilize, just whether it be meetings or anything informational, to put on the bills. So I agree with you, Peter. If we want to do it, maybe a couple, at our regular meeting, or if we want to get together for 20 minutes beforehand, or if somebody just sees something that maybe is worthy of going on there. I just want to be able to utilize our billing. It's not a huge area. We can't write a novel there, but if there's something important that we want to kind of inform everybody of, then I thought it was a good idea just to make sure that we use it every month.
Just to reiterate, I think it's a good idea, but most of the communications goes through City Hall with regard to events and dates and so on.
Sure.
So I'd feel uncomfortable being in charge of that without having access to the information.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
we can narrow that down on how we want to do that, or maybe that's just a job that falls on me. But it's just kind of a thought that entered my head, so I put it down.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on that? Does everybody not understand anything that I put on there? I want to make sure that it, just because it sounds good when I write it down, doesn't make always come out exactly how it should. So.
Well, the only question I have, Nathan, and see what your thoughts are on Public Works. The number 2, make recommendation to the council and mayor, city-owned property to liquidate and keep. You sure you want to keep that Public Works, or do you want to move that to administrative?
Either way.
You don't have to, but just thought.
Yeah, either way. I mean, that's something that I'm definitely going to want to sit in on. Yeah, that may fit better under administration, I guess. I was thinking property and surplusing Public Works, but it could go under either one.
Or I don't know if we could combine the two, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know about that. Yeah. The peoples or the personnel.
I'll look at it and we can figure it out. I'll talk to the all three of you and see what we want to do there. But yeah, either way, not a huge deal. It'll end up coming to a vote through the council anyways. So.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, thanks, Nathan.
Okay. Well, if you guys have any questions or want to meet up on any of that stuff or find out information, want to relay it, go ahead and get a hold of me. Okay, move on. I guess I had a addition to the agenda. I could have kind of thrown it in here as well, but I have set a date for the 2021 budget amendment. And I know we've talked about it quite a bit already. I know I've met with the budget committee on it as well, but I wanted to give another chance to talk about anything that's wanted or any input for the 2021 budget amendment. So I just kind of wanted to open that up and see if you guys have any more input or anything else to say on that. We have set the date for the amendment on February 24th. So I want to make sure that got out there so you guys knew the date, and then kind of open it up, see if anyone else had if they've came upon any other thoughts or comments. And if you do in between now and then, certainly get a hold of me and we can talk.
Nathan, sorry, this is Justin. I don't know if I just missed it, but do we have a date set then for the utility rate discussion? Did you say that? Or hearing?
So Yeah, yep, we do. It's just going to be, I want to do the budget amendment on February 24th. Tonight, I just wanted to open it up to see if there was any additional information or if you guys want to talk about anything. I know we've went over quite a few times, stuff that we want to see on there. But yes, February 24th, 7 o'clock.
What are the budget amendments we have in mind already, proposed budget amendments?
So the big one is the utility rates. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit about the inactive rates, changing them, and also the garbage rate, the can prices. And then if those, depending on what happens, if that's approved, then there'll be some different revenue that could then kind of domino effect and affect some other things in the budget, payroll, as far as salaries and some other things that we had talked about previously. But the big one is the utility rate.
We probably ought to have an exchange over via email on the proposal so we know what we're going to be voting on. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yep. And I will be the first to admit that I haven't done a very good job of getting those out to you in a timely manner. So I'll make sure that happens this go around so that you guys have time to look at it and I can answer questions beforehand. So
yeah,
absolutely.
And Nathan, that's a public hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And we're going to check too. I want to make sure as far as utility rates, there could be some other, I want to make sure that there's not any other hoops that we have to jump through for the utility rate stuff. So, but yes, it will be.
okay.
But I want to get it on there again just to make sure if there's something new that you guys came up or if we need to go over anything. But we've talked about it quite a bit. I will get the document together as soon as I can, get it out to you guys in a timely manner. Okay. Next on our agenda is our Andy Tom amendment. So we went through some stuff with in the last part of December for RFQ, which is request for qualifications. I talked with Andy a couple times as well as Janice. So all we needed to end up doing was just to amend the prior agreement that we had with Andy Tom and J.A. Sewell and Associates. So you guys have that in front of you. Hopefully you read through it. We're just extending the time frame for us, through the end of the year to make sure that everything that was in the original scope of the project is completed. So instead of going through the hassle, and it wasn't needed to go through the whole request for qualifications and to formally accept them as a contractor, we just amended this agreement. So Andy has asked me to call him. So I'm going to give him a ring just over the phone, and he has a couple things that he wants to chat about to you guys. So let me get him on the phone.
Hello?
Hi, Andy. This is Nathan with the City of Harrington.
Hey, yeah. It was late. You wouldn't be calling.
Yeah, sorry about that. We're just getting to that spot.
No. Okay, no, that's great because I have figured out a bunch of stuff and hold on.
Can you guys hear Andy okay? Or are you having trouble?
Yeah, I can hear.
He's a little soft, but we can hear him. I can.
It's faint.
I'll talk out.
Okay.
sent me the agenda.
Yep.
And it looks like one of the items you wanted we're going to address the extension.
Yep, and you're on with the council right now. We're meeting via
Okay.
Zoom, and I'm kind of cheating here and just have you on the phone.
Okay, no, that's great. I used Zoom once and I really don't like it. But anyway, yeah, the reason I did that is because even though the facilities plan is approved, we ran over, and because you guys said you couldn't afford to buy the sampler until sometime in April or May. So the thing to do is just to extend it, and that takes care of it. There's no change, there's no cost, and we'll just continue to go on.
Okay.
So there's enough money so you can buy the meter or the sampler with the rest of, I forget how much we applied for, and then allows me to write the QAPP, Quality Assurance Program Plan that Ecology wanted me to do for the for the sampler.
Yep.
So it'll be within the budget, and I'll make sure it stays in the budget anyway.
Okay.
It's in the budget.
Senator, good evening.
So that's one item. I wanted to also tell, I don't know if the council knows, you remember we went halvesies on the application with Ecology.
Sir, I'm in the
For
middle. Could we talk tomorrow or later tonight?
Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. And so what happened was you guys finished number 3 in the state out of like 150
Yeah.
people that applied. And so you got funded. The problem was there was a mistake made, and part of it was my fault, and part of it was also the way they formulated the application. They said, what's design flow? And when you guys did did the plant back in 2007, for some reason they had a flow of 129,000 gallons a day, and so basically that's equivalent to population of 1,239. And so what happened was they said what's the design flow? And to be I try to be honest in all of these, and it says, well, the design in the original engineer report is 129,000 gallons a day. So they thought when they were reviewing it that it was the reason we were asking for money was for growth. And so I got back to them and told them, well, because then they said, okay, you're number 3 in the state. We can only give you like $250,000 grant. The rest is like a 1.6% loan. And so I talked to them, and the guy you want to talk to, and Cynthia Wall was really helpful, and so was Kim. But the guy who makes the portions the money his name is Daniel Thompson, an Olympian. He's really nice. I've known him for years. And basically, I said, well, just look at Wikipedia. The population hasn't grown since, I think, 1960. So they reevaluated it, and it's not finalized. They'll be going to the final meeting on next week. And when it's highly likely, because that's what Daniel Thompson's position is, that it should be switched around so that you get a 75% grant and a 25% loan, and the loan goes down to 0.5% a year for 20 years.
Okay.
But that still means that you still have to pay the loan back. So what I did was I called CDBG. You know John Gallo, don't you, with CDBG?
Yeah, I haven't met him in person, but I've had email correspondence with him.
Yeah, he's really, really nice, and he's super helpful. We've done 3 projects with him in Basin City. We're putting in wells and distribution systems, and we're putting in a well this year. They need a new well, and he's been super helpful. And so I told him what your predicament is, and your rate, even before any loans are applied to the city, are like $94 per connection. And he's an engineer, and so he knows what rates are supposed to be. And he said, "Wow, that's really high." So what I'm asking, and I talked to Janice, and I talked to you too, Nate. I don't think the council knows. I'd like your approval, and we'll go 50-50, and I'll put a cap on it. We'll apply for CDBG paying for the 25%, so that hopefully there's almost going to be no cost to you for the treatment plant upgrade.
Okay.
I think you've got a real good chance at it. And like I told both you and Janice also, I talked to Ecology. You guys owe like $500,000 for the old USDA loan.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, and it's like probably 4.5% or something.
Yeah, I'm not positive on the rate there.
Yeah, well, what I'd like to do, again with your permission, but it won't be till October, is to apply for, and this is a longer shot than either the CDBG or the ecology grant we just got for you, but to try and get a refinance on this. Now, the way ecology does this is at the end of the funding cycle, if there's any money left, then they'll consider the refinance. So I think, once you do one application, if you don't get it this next year, you do it again the following year and the following year using the same application.
Sure.
And with the idea being that one of these times it's going to hit. I was helping Cynthia with QSIC because they got awarded a refinance for their USDA loan. And so I think you got a really good chance because their rates are a lot lower than yours, and they are over 50% low to moderate income as well.
Okay. And on the CDBG grant, that'd be to pay that remaining 25%. That is not a grant. What is that amount roughly? So 75% would be paid, and then what's the 25% that we would be applying for?
I think it's about $950,000 is going to be most likely grant of the 1.3 million.
Okay.
And then, so what you'd be applying for with CDBG would be the rest of it, or about $325,000.
Okay.
Of grant CDBG.
And what's the price, or what's the amount of money? I guess our half that would be for that application.
Theirs is a lot more rigorous than a lot of other ones. Although even though I have a lot of experience, I'd say about 3,000 to 3,500, but I'll try and keep it down to 3, and I'll cap it at 3.
Okay.
But my opinion, it's well worth it. And I think that from my conversations with John, you've got a pretty good chance at it.
Okay.
And even if it's not the whole thing, it'll be a lot of it. They have to be careful on how they do it so that they don't interfere with Ecology's 75% grant.
Sure.
And they work really closely together. And John's advice to me was, as soon as we get, even before the formal award, and regardless of that, you should take it anyway. You should tell Ecology, yes, we'll take the grant because, we'll take the money. The chances, and then I'll just try and find other money if you don't get the CDBG one. But they're not. The application is available in March, and I think CDBG does not. It closes, I think, in June, and then they take time to award. So a lot of it hinges on whether or not you have an ecology grant already. And the fact that you finished so high in the state really increases your chances of CDBG funding you. Well, two things. One, your ERU rate is so high just for Seward, and also the fact that you finished so high. Out of 1,000 points, you finished, I think, 15 points behind the highest score in the state.
Okay.
So you're in a really good position to get it almost all funded.
Okay. So we have a couple decisions to make here. I'm on with the council right now. So we'll tack the amendment first, and then we've got some fairly big decisions to make going forward with the treatment plant and the facility plan update. So, or the update. So,
and if you need more information, you can always call and we can do a conference call, if you have more questions. But regardless of that, the facilities plan, the work that was done in it, raised your effluent limit to the point where you shouldn't have a problem meeting it. The problem is going to be what the operational costs are going to be.
sure.
Because the plants you have, you're not even addressing the biosolids issues or anything else. And I'm planning on eliminating the biosolids issue through construction and then by the new redesign.
Okay.
Plus, you no longer have to deal with the constant hassle of dealing with the interchange between the groundwater discharge and the river and contaminating. And the reason you got the money, one of the biggest reasons, is because ecology is so concerned about contamination of the groundwater and the creek through the bottom of the lagoon. And we're going to eliminate both lagoons, one lagoon, and then double line the other one.
Okay.
So that it doesn't become a problem anymore.
Alrighty. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump off here with you, Andy. Unless you have anything more to add, I think we've got what we need for now, and then I'm sure we'll be in touch quite a bit more coming up.
One question, Nathan.
Okay.
So are we going to be deciding whether we do that additional 3,000 for pursuing the CDBG tonight? Are we making that decision tonight?
No, we could, but I think we should wait. I think one of the big underlying factors, and Andy can correct me if I'm wrong, but is to see if we want to go through with the actual construction and make sure that that's something that we're
Agreed.
wanting.
Okay. And fine. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if we were doing that tonight, I had other questions for Andy, but since we're not, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Nate, if anybody has any questions, they can just call.
Okay.
You guys have always done that, and that's all my other clients do that too.
Okay, I'll make sure to pass out your information. That way, if they have some time during the day and they have questions, they can give you a buzz.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, bye. Okay, thanks, guys. Hopefully it was clear enough. Sorry if it wasn't quite loud enough, but so yeah, we've got some work to do on the other portion of that tonight. The only thing that I really I want to entertain a motion for is just the amendment to the contract, just so we can extend that through the end of this year and get the rest of the work from the original scope of work done. So
This is Justin. I'll make the motion.
okay, I have a motion to
Second.
okay, was that Steven?
Yep.
Okay, motion to accept the amendment, seconded by Steven. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the amendment to J.A. Sewell and Associates agreement, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, all opposed, same sign.
Peter will abstain.
Okay.
I had some questions and somehow my microphone got muted.
Yeah, I muted you. I heard you were talking to somebody else. Sorry, Peter.
Oh, okay.
Is it something that I can answer, or is it something for Andy?
I'll talk to you at the city hall. I just wanted to be sure that it didn't have any financial ramifications, or even more important, whether it pushed back any schedules.
Nope, this does not. This is simply an amendment to the time frame for the scope of work. So we had a previous agreement with J.A. Sewell and Associates, and this is just extending that until the end of this year.
Okay.
But that, if you want to abstain, that's fine. Okay, motion passes 4-0-1. And Peter, get a hold of me whenever you want. We can sit down and chat.
That'll be good. Okay.
Okay. Moving on. Junk vehicle ordinance. Not to put you on the spot, David, but I think this was added by you. I will go ahead and give you the floor on this.
Okay. Well, I have done a little bit of research, and I know this has been a concern of citizens and councilman members alike. And we have a code enforcement officer, and he seems to be a little bit stymied at times of the current ordinance that has no teeth, enforcement part of it. And so I would like to add, I don't know if everybody received it, but I typed up a draft to add, and like to add that to the ordinance number 462 as an amendment. And it basically narrows down what we're trying to do and prevent a nuisance in the city, from sight, and clean up the city a bit. It doesn't, my intent was not to tread on anybody's rights, but it is an RCW. However, dealing with the city, we have to make up our own ordinance to back this up, and if that makes any sense. I have this proposal to kind of outline what we would need to do, and it doesn't interfere with them. They either move it all off or they put a fence around it. And I think it kind of explains it, what I wrote, and I'd like your guys' opinion on it, and add, subtract, or just your thoughts. Because like I said, this is a draft, and it gets the ball rolling. I have currently in front of me, I have a notice that was given out June 1st, 2008. Actually, April, it was passed in 08. And it's a notice that the city of Harrington will start enforcing ordinance number 462. And it's regarding prohibiting the storage of junk vehicles on public or private property in city limits. And I know that we've had several letters go out. Some people complied and some haven't. But I just want the council's thoughts on this. Where do we go? Since we have a code enforcement officer with us to do his job, and it just seems like writing letters is not getting anything done. I mean, not accomplishing everything that we intend to get done. So with that said, I'll turn it over for questions or thoughts or whatever.
David, this is Peter. Why do you say the existing ordinance number 462 does not have teeth in it? It reads fairly unambiguously, in my opinion.
Well, the write-ups are in a book down there, and nothing's ever happened. I mean, there has been some people that complied, but some haven't for whatever reason. And I'm not saying that they have to remove everything, but going forward, we've had scrap piles. I don't know. Did you happen to see what I wrote by chance, Peter? I don't know if you have.
I did. I received it via.
Okay. Well, it stipulates if a person, private, business, whatever, is going to do this, it's not preventing them from doing it. It's just a matter of aesthetically taking care of it under the RCWs, 46.80.130. And it's storage and screening. And that's all they'd have to do. And you can put anything you want in there. It's not saying you can't do it, but our city, within city limits, it requires a screening of sort to prevent a nuisance. The MRSCs call it a nuisance of neighborhoods, and for a list of a list of things, rodents, kids, just everything you can think of. So that
I
was
think-
my point, just to get to going on this and talking about it and get something so our code enforcement officer has a little more backing. And if you guys don't think this is enough or it's too much, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
So I want to interject real quick, David, before the rest of the council goes. I agree with you on pretty much everything that you said. I know that when I originally talked with Jay, that was one of his concerns. You know, what happens if somebody doesn't comply with a letter or something, and having some teeth in the ordinance and having, having some. Well, what if they don't do it? And I felt like. Honestly, I've done kind of a poor job of following up with that, and I'm glad that you brought this up. It's just to have something. I think, Peter, to answer your question a little bit more, is just to if we have a code compliance officer, a letter gets sent out, and then they still don't comply or something, nothing's being done. What are the steps that we can take? What are the avenues that we go down to get that problem mitigated? And I think, looking at this ordinance in whole, whether David's addition goes in there as an entirety or parts of it or whatever we need to do to make sure that we can get these things done. And I take some responsibility on that for sure. But I don't know. David, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
Nathan, this is Jake.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the problem that we have is we need to come up with some kind of a monetary fine or something for these people, because they obviously don't respect the letters that the city sends out. If the city council could come up with some kind of like monthly, if you don't abide by the letter by a certain date, it's going to cost you X amount of money per month. We're going to fine you or assess you, or I think that would probably have more teeth than, the letters obviously don't do anything.
Sure. Okay. So, David, what do you think about just kind of tearing apart this ordinance? It's obviously a big one that we deal with quite a bit, that maybe we could, and I don't mean tear it apart in a negative way, but just kind of go over the entire thing and see if we can get something, put into place or change it or amend it however we need to, lack of a better term, to give it some teeth.
Well, I agree. But I did have a conversation with Jay a week ago or last week. And one of the concerns was the reason why I wanted to put that RCW in there is private property and businesses don't fall under a wrecking yard or any of that. And for whatever reason, there is places, that's not all businesses, but it has in the past, they look like a wrecking yard or junkyard or scrap pile. And my intent was if they're going to do that, then they need to fence it according to the RCW of storage and screening. And that's mainly my whole intent is that either get rid of it or hide it. And that is a state law, that RCW. And it explains that. And the actual heading is all storage at place of business, screening required. And that, it is in reference to mainly wrecking yards or junkyards and stuff, where the private citizen is not going to fall under either one of those. But our city, within our city limits, we're well within our rights and our legal authority to impose those restrictions and such for businesses or people, private or whatever, from doing that. And they would just have to follow that RCW, have to make sure they put up a fence and screened to where it's not a nuisance.
Okay.
And then they can do whatever.
Okay. Justin's got a question for you, David.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, David, real quick on the existing ordinance under junk vehicles, the definition there, letter A says it's 3 years or older.
Mhm.
And then in your, the document you provided here, where did it go? Shoot.
It's 3 or
It
4,
says
excuse me.
4. It says 4 years. So I didn't know if there's if that's incongruent or if we need to, if that means that this would need to change to 3 or the existing would need to change to 4 or what you've presented needs to change to 3 or.
Well, that's a very good question, Justin. Thank you. And to be honest with you, I never read the ordinance entirety when I come up with this. It's all off the top of the head. So to answer your question, it could be either or, whatever we agree on. 3 or 4 years old. If we make them all one way, or make them all 3s, or make them all 4s. That part,
Well,
I'm open to.
Yeah, I don't, I would think, I mean, I think we, so this was passed in 2008. So this is almost 13 years. And Cynthia McMullen is no longer our attorney because she retired, but the fact that this has been read by the city's attorney at the time makes me feel good. I mean, I would say one, it needs to be the same, but to make the least amount of changes to our existing ordinance, I would say would be the easiest, just probably for everybody. So to add your things or whatever, I would just say try to make that as consistent with what we have that's already there, so we don't have to change that. But
I agree.
and I guess the other thing is, to Nathan's point, to Jay's point, and your point too. I mean, reading this, it doesn't really set out. It just says there's a hearing, but it doesn't talk about like what happens. It says there's cost to remove the junk vehicle, but that's not a fine. So I think the teeth part, it's been mentioned. I guess there isn't. I don't know if it was considered at that, 13 years ago, or if it was just more of a, because it says recovery of costs. I mean, it was all about just getting rid of the junk cars, not finding them. So I don't know but we've had problems with that in the last few years. We've talked about getting those Hulk slips and this and that too. So if it's one more thing, I guess, of adding a penalty, which when Dylan Haas was the mayor, he worked really hard with the courts, with Lincoln County, to be able to get some of this stuff in place to where we could start assessing fines and then collecting those. So I don't in general have any problems with that. If there's, like what Jay said, Jay is the enforcement officer right now, probably feels hamstrung. So I have in theory, no issues with that. Or their option is they can build a fence or they can pay a fine. They're going to spend money somehow, or it's going to cost money to remove the vehicle or the nuisance. So,
right.
In theory, I'm not opposed to that, of what you proposed in that sense.
And keep in mind too, Justin, my intentions also were, before this is a rough draft, and before it could be anything, I feel more comfortable an attorney look at this and see where it can and cannot be inserted, legally, cover our basis. I'd be more comfortable than just throwing it in there. That was my intention. It still would have to pass legal counsel before any of that would take place.
Nathan?
Yeah.
It's Jay.
Yeah, go ahead.
The RCW that applies to fencing vehicles and lots, it applies to like junkyards and tow companies and that kind of stuff. It doesn't really apply to the business license that we all know. In town, most of the junkyards and the cars and stuff that are in town, they don't apply to that RCW. The problem you have is you don't want to, the city to be able to haul off junk cars is just going to cost the city money. So we got to figure out a way that we can penalize people with junk cars on a monetary basis to give them the incentive to get those cars off their lots.
Gotcha. Okay.
So my 2 cents is I think we should work our way backwards, probably from how we enforce to what we enforce. And I think the commonality with this is I've heard through the years some similar concerns about dog ordinances and chicken ordinances and all other types of things that the enforcement officer might have to go after. The question of, do they have even the ability to do anything with it? So I think there's a larger common question of what tools does the enforcement officer have at their disposal? And we probably need to tackle those first and then work our way back, that after we have tools available to the enforcement officer for remedying a situation, then we have the luxury of looking at what things do we want to do or not do. But changing what we want to enforce doesn't really mean anything until we have the ability to enforce it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Question, Nathan, this is Peter.
Sure.
Does amending an ordinance require a public hearing?
I believe so. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look, but I believe so.
Yeah.
Going forward, I think one of the things that has come up on my mind, and I'm not looking to vote, excuse me, to vote on it necessarily tonight, but one of the things I thought of was to whether it would be worthwhile or whether we could use it is to have that enforcement year round, that enforcement officer year round. So right now, I mean, Jay started a little bit late, so we still ran him the same amount of months, but a little bit later in the year. Is to be able to see, would it be worth our while to have that enforcement officer available year round? Some things I think, you could focus on only certain months and then do the work and deal with it then. But some of the other things I think would take, how do you enforce it half of the year and how do you enforce it not the other half? So that was one of my underlying questions is what's the council's thought on, obviously pending funding because it's a paid position, but to be able to have that enforcement officer available year round, is that something that the council would entertain, being that we could find the money or make the money available somehow to do that, and then go forward? Kind of to Stephen's point, on to give the tools we need. I think the first thing is us as a city to have the tool available is to have that compliance officer. If Jay's done for the year and then 2 months later we have a problem, I mean, what do we do then? I mean, how do we attack that? Is it something that can wait until the enforcement officer comes on the next go round, or is it something that can't and we have to end up dealing with it, by other means? So what's your guys' thought on that?
Just mulling it over, this is Peter. I don't think the city has the wherewithal to have a full-time enforcement officer.
Yeah, and we may not. I mean, it's definitely not budgeted that way currently, but should that become available or we make that available, is that something that we'd be interested in? Just to keep on top of things. And obviously other things would come with that. If we get some of the stuff that Stephen said, get the tools in place, we have that going, then things can be a little bit more fluid and try to get some of the problems taken care of as they arise.
Nathan, is David. I got a question. What part be more descriptive of what his job is? Is he just strictly running around taking pictures of vehicles, or is he dog catcher? I mean, what exactly is his scope of work before we justify a full year's wage for it? Is it something that he could stay busy all year?
I think so. I don't know to answer the last question for sure. As far as a job description, I don't think we have a formal one. I have a draft here that it's never been finalized by any means, but would be obviously the animal stuff and then any of the nuisance. I mean, I would say any ordinance in general, but obviously the two big ones that we deal with are animals, and which kind of falls into it, but the nuisance ordinances. To keep somebody busy year round, I couldn't honestly answer that. I haven't been around long enough.
All right. I don't know the answer to that myself. And without asking Jay here, I mean, how busy did he keep? I mean, in his opinion, is there a lot of work, or was there, how does he feel? Did he feel cut short? He didn't get enough time to do his job, or I just don't know where that lies.
Hey, David, Nathan, this is Justin. So the history here is, so Jay's the third person. We've had three. 2020 was the third year we did it. We never had a budget before. Originally, when I came on the council, Paul at one point volunteered to do part of that pertaining to dogs, I think, or maybe it was he asked the council before I got on to be the person when he was running for mayor. And then the dollar, so we never had a budget for it. It was in Scott's duties originally, and then Paul Gillen took it over. And then when the city and the county passed the law enforcement sales tax increase, we went to the mayor, because that's a pass through to the sheriff's office. We went to the sheriff, Dylan and I did, and talked to him about wanting to do something ourselves. So he was, because at the time, some people thought it was 100% pass through of that sales tax, and other people thought it was not 100%. So Wade Majors agreed to let us keep some of that money to do something ourselves as part of that. So 3 years, I think it's $2,000 is what we chose. And then we said, well, what's the best way to do that? Who can do that? And it was decided at that time, or suggested by somebody, that if it's 6 or 8 months, whatever the time frame is, but that would then give us the most bang for our buck to be able to pay somebody to say, okay, you can get $250 a month for this amount of, for 6 months. It never was determined. It wasn't, we never looked at it based on the amount of work. It was, hey, we have this small pool of money. How can we do it? And so the first year we had a lady do it, and she worked really hard with Dylan to kind of set up a process and start that thing. And then the second year we had somebody else who kind of continued that thing, and then now Jay has been doing it. So it originally, I think, my intention too, both as a council member and as a mayor, was that it could continue to grow and it would evolve as we saw fit, because it never was really formalized before. And Peter, I as the mayor, I pushed for us to do it as a council member too, without having a full scope of work for the job duties, because it was a work in process. Peter was kind of adamantly against it. And no, I mean, I don't blame him, but we didn't have the full scope. And so he was like, hey, if we don't have a defined role, what can we ask this person to do? And so I was one of the people that kept pushing to say, well, let's at least do something though, instead of waiting to get it done. Let's make it a work in process and have that person help us, whoever that is, help us define that as they go along. So that's kind of where I would say, so in 2021 will be our 4th year in doing that. So, has it improved since we started? I would say yes. Is it perfect? No. And there's still plenty of room to make it better. So.
Well, thanks, Justin. That explains it. It's just my opinion that we have a code enforcement officer. We want to go forward with this, it sounds like. And either we come up with something to implement these rules that we've created, or we just forget it and it's not worth the paper it's printed on. If we don't enforce it, it's just a joke. So I'm the type of person that wants to see action and try and get stuff going and head that direction. Or, like I said, it's not worth the paper it's printed on if we have somebody or the city doesn't have any teeth in it. They just laugh at it and that's it. So either we got to pick one or the other. Either we're going to enforce it or we're not.
So my opinion, David, going forward would be to go forward with it is to try and make some of these changes, whatever they may be, with some of the stuff that you've written and amending that ordinance, working with our attorney, sheriff's office, whatever we have to do. I don't want to waste all the work that's been done, just as Justin said, in the last 3 years. So I would be in favor of asking the council to go forward. I mean, I don't think we need to necessarily vote on anything tonight, but to say, yeah, we want to go forward with it. We want to continue this and get it to where it's not just a joke, to where we have some ground to stand on. So that's my opinion.
Right.
Going with enforcement officer, do what we need to with the ordinance, whether it's talking some more with the courts or, laying out a schedule or doing whatever we can to be able to enforce this. And then on the flip side is have something to enforce it.
Right. And I really would entertain having it run by an attorney just to see how legal or what our parameters really are, and for suggestions there. And I feel a lot more comfortable going that route. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but at some point, an attorney's going to have to look at this.
Yeah. I was just trying to find my commit. I mean, is this something that would be proper to maybe put under the administration committee and kind of have those guys and myself work to get something put together to then send to the attorney?
I would agree to that. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but either way, I'd like to get something, moving forward.
Okay. Well, I think, does anyone else have any comments or concerns?
This is Justin. I'd say I think to move forward is the right path, and just like what David said. So to whoever's, have that a draft worked up, have it run just like we did the chicken ordinance and everything else, have the attorney look at it, and then, but I'm in favor of that myself to move forward.
Okay. Well, I say we move forward with it now. I don't hear any huge opposition to it. And then obviously we will end up voting to amend it or to accept the new draft. So I say, David, to answer your question, we move forward with it and keep working on it.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Metal scrap bin. I think that was you as well, David. Does that kind of tie into the conversation that we just had, or how do you want to address that?
For the life of me, I can't think of why that was. I don't recall that. I know we have talked. I talked to you personally about it, and I don't know how. I'll go back to 2008 here in this notice, and I'm just assuming. I don't know if this was mailed out to people or it was posted. It doesn't say here, but it states that if you have junk vehicles, it's just referring to vehicles. Arrangements are being made for a vehicle crusher to be in town. I don't know if that ever happened. Hello?
Yeah, I heard somebody.
It was
Scott.
Nathan. It was Scott who was chiming in.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
He might have muted himself.
Oh, okay.
Well, my point being is that we've had scrapper here. I believe that was in 2018, 19. We had a city. I had that paper here. A community. Let's just say call it junk pile, scrap pile, and that seemed to work for a little while until the scrapper skedaddled. And trying to nail him down was like trying to nail Jello to a wall. But going forward, I don't know, is that something that the town, the city would entertain? I don't know. I don't know why that was, I mean, is it something we need?
Yeah, I think you and I talked about it a little bit. I think what the idea was to see if we can, or if we would be in favor of somehow having a bin available to people to throw their scrap metal in. Obviously, we could go on for hours about, you know, the good and the bads with it, but I took it as the availability of having a bin to dump scrap metal in, and then have somebody take care of it, or whether it's a transfer station in Lincoln County or somebody to have that available.
Right.
So I talked to Lincoln County about it. I haven't heard a for sure answer, but I was, you know, we deal with them with the cardboard and some of the other stuff. I was asking Rory at the transfer station if they would have available a bin that we could put here. Of course, we, you know, talk to the insurance, whatever we needed to do to be okay with having a bin here. People dump their stuff in, they haul it off, so that we have that available. I think the idea behind it is fantastic. Got your fridge goes at, or, you know, whatever, you have something comes out of the shop, you can just run it down here, dump it off. You don't have to haul it off somewhere. It doesn't get stacked up on people's property. And to have that available, I don't have enough of an answer for you whether we can end up doing something like that, sponsoring that as a city. There's some bad, you know, that come with that. People choose to dump tires in there or something, then we're going to be responsible for that. But I think that was what I took from what you and I had talked about previously. So I don't know. I guess I'd ask the rest of the council of their idea there. I mean, we do it for green waste and cardboard and recyclables. Obviously, it's not something that I want to have to pay for, and being that it's scrap metal, I don't, if we could get around that to where we were out nothing except for a 20 by 10 bin taking up some space somewhere, I would be in favor of it. But I don't have enough of those details yet, but I'd like to work on it and see what comes of it.
Well, I think if we could consistency dumping it, it would be advantageous to the city or citizens here, I think, to have that. But again, like you said, I don't believe, I'm not in favor of encumbering the city with another bill to pay them to make money off us. You know, I never understood. You know, it's kind of like, hey, it's a donation, take it thing.
Yeah, that would be my point. We'd have to have it free of charge to us somehow.
And I don't know how the other council members feel about it. Is it something that the city really needs to, I mean, how do, you know, they're around town and what they see, is it in our favor to do something like this or entertain it, or if you just wash your hands and be done with it?
This is Justin. I just had a quick question. So maybe I missed it, but the scrap bin that's back there now, is that still available? I mean, is it still there, or the one that was behind Heron's place or whatever?
That bin right there was technically when it started, we had it on my property.
Correct.
In the pasture, and then after the cleanup, it was a spring cleanup and all that went honky-dory good, I guess. Scrapper was taking it, dumped it, and then I think he had a bin for Mike as well, and that was a separate deal. That was his. And the scrapper brought a bin in after it was empty. He brought a bin in, it was his, and where it's located now is technically a city street, city property. So the scrapper, he's hard, like I said, he's Jello on a wall. I mean, you can't pin him down, but his agents, let's say, they're working on it right now, getting it cleaned up and out of there. And I don't know, that's kind of what we were talking about, Justin, is going forward, is that something somebody wants to donate some property, or not really donate it, but set it up on their property? I mean, there's liabilities to that. Or does the city want to get involved with having a refuge iron bin for people? it seems to be a big hit because people come by there and say it's full and where do I put it? So I mean, it does get some use, but I don't know how advantageous that's going to be for the town if that's something we want to mess with or not. But that, I hope that answers kind of your question there.
It does. Yep. So my only thing then too, and I've used it when it was on your property, David, I hauled stuff there and I've seen that been there. So, I mean, I would say to Nathan's point, talking to Rory, is there a cost to the city? Because right now we can we as citizens can go up to Davenport to the transfer station. Now it's a 15 or 20 mile one-way trip, but free of charge. They don't charge you to dump scrap metal, but you have to get it there. So
right.
If the county is willing to pick it up, maybe at no charge, because they're the ones that sell it later. I mean, this is, then sure, why not, essentially? But if the city, if it's going to cost the city money, are the citizens going to want to pay for, do we want to say, wait, we're going to add on $1, what random number? I have no idea, but say $1 a month.
Yeah.
Because they have to do that. Is that worth it to maybe one person? It is, because they're like, yeah, I can dump all my metal there, not drive, 30 or 40 mile round trip. But then the other people say, well, wait a second, why do I got to pay for that? So I would say partly my decision would probably depend on what the county says, if there's a cost or not.
And I can work on keep getting those details too, so that I can have something back to report if that's even an option from the Lincoln County or not.
And if we had either that or a reliable scrapper around here, that a contract with them to do it on a timely basis. And the only other thing, and I bring this up quite a bit, I apologize, but it is one thing in the back of our minds. Scrap iron tends to draw other elements to it, kids playing on it, or just pick dumpster divers, okay, whatever. And the liability issue to it, is that something, I don't know how, to me, that's a biggie, but to the city, I don't know how the city, what policies or how that would fit into our exposure.
I think we just have to run that both through our attorney and maybe insurance too. I definitely get what you're saying there. And if I don't know necessarily our attorney, but maybe more the insurance, and say, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. One, is there any more risk, or are we gonna have to pay more on that side? You saw the bill earlier. We pay quite a bit for insurance already, so that's we'd have to definitely check with them. But I think if there's an option to do it and it doesn't cost us money right up front, then we look at the insurance and the liability part of it. But
and I just guess that may not even change. I mean, it may be a policy where that fall under an umbrella, or it might be already covered. I don't know.
Sure.
I would hate to start, tacking on a bunch of extras.
Well, I'm pretty interested in it, David. I think it's a good idea if we can find a solution somehow. I would love to have that availability somehow in town. Like, one, it gets stuff the people that don't necessarily have the means to get it to the transfer station. It gives them a place. And second of all, even if you do have the means, well, why not drive downtown or wherever versus, like Justin said, the round trip. So I'm interested in it. If you guys are good with it, I'd personally be okay with taking it on and trying to get you guys some information.
Okay. Yeah, maybe kind of pinpoint that down a little bit.
Sure.
That'd be perfect. And as far as the committees and stuff, land and all that. I just got one question down there by the old state shop that for green refuge stuff. That's the cities set that up too, correct? Alongside of the ones by the old fire station. So we technically have 3 bins, or
yeah, we have 2 year-round and then a seasonal third one.
Oh, okay. I know they use the heck out of that too. So
yeah. Yep.
I think, okay. Well, that's all I got to say about it. And
Question.
Move forward.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
When's the green waste bin going to be reinstalled and operational?
That's a very good question. I think we usually put the call into that. I don't know when it usually starts. Maybe Justin may know the answer to that.
I think it's April.
Nathan, I think it's March or April.
March or April. Okay.
Who makes the decision on that? Is that the state or is that the city?
The city.
Okay.
The city pays for it, so it's really whenever we want to do it. We have to pay every time they dump it. So.
Nathan, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Scott.
Hey.
I have to interject. We all know we're talking about Harrington Truck and Auto and their cars and their lack of fencing or whatever. But the city also rented the city property to a wrecking yard, and the wrecking yard does not have any slatting, any covering, anything on their property that protects it from the view of the citizens. So I think the city needs to get their ducks in a row before they go after somebody that somebody has a vendetta against.
Yeah, I agree. I think we want to deal with all the properties as one. I mean, this is a general umbrella ordinance, and that we need to take care of any and all properties. This definitely isn't just for
Nathan. I wanted to interject real quick on that. There's a difference between city limits and city property.
Right.
Sure.
There's a difference between city limits and city property. And if you want to get sued, you've got to differentiate between the two and protect your butt, because you're open for a problem. If you own the property and you let somebody put a wrecking yard on it and they're not following RCWs, you've quoted RCWs all night, and the RCWs cover that wrecking yard across the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say that again, Scott.
Out of the city limits. The RCWs cover that wrecking yard across the state highway out of the city limits. It's cut and dried. RCWs cover that. The city does not have to enforce it, but the city's got to look as good as the general public and the private citizens as they claim to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Dylan Haas as mayor set up nothing with the county. He never followed through or finished it as far as enforcement, fines, or anything.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything either. I've talked to them once and need to follow up and see if we get something set with them, if that's what we choose to do.
Yeah, but he's talked to him, but he never did set us up.
Okay.
I, as dog catcher, would have been pleased to be able to write somebody a ticket as a dog catcher and get it taken care of. That's the only way you're going to hurt people is monetary. Jay's right.
Yeah. No, yeah, that definitely needs some attention. If that's what we choose to do, is go through Lincoln County and with the sheriff's office for that stuff, to talk with them and see what we can implement.
I was on here during the discussions of the bathroom when Jay said that we didn't have any we had plans there. They had plans of whatever they were going to do at the bathrooms. But in order to put those, there's a sewer within 20 feet of where the bathrooms are going to go, but I have no idea where they are going to go. So I can't estimate how much that's going to cost from the sewer to the bathrooms. I have to have an idea where they're going to put the bathrooms. I've got the water line close, but we'll have to finalize all that when the time comes.
Yeah, we'll get together and make a plan and get together with the committee, and so we can get an estimate of the cost there, get our distances and parts and pieces needed.
All right,
Nathan, I'd like to interject something real quick.
Sure.
To make it perfectly crystal clear to everybody about vendettas and all this stuff. I took an oath of office, and I'm on the administrative committee, and both of those would fall under those categories. So for saying or implying that there's a vendetta I take offense to, because it's neither of the above.
Okay, well, we need to just treat it as it is and do everything equal and get stuff figured out. It's definitely gonna take some time and some work, but we can do it.
I wouldn't, David, I'm sorry, I wasn't singling you out or anything.
Okay.
Everybody is upset with Harrington Truck and Auto, and I think the city's got to get their ducks in a row before they go after somebody.
Well, I just want to
Anybody,
make
private,
it clear, Scott.
public.
I mean, as far as my opinion, it's the entire city limits, the entire town. We just need to get it figured out so that we can do it in general get a process set for the entire city. We just don't have that process nailed down, and we need to.
I appreciate that. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
Well, I was just trying to understand, and I thank you, Scotty, for that clarification. But my intent is not to prevent anybody or tread on their rights, but when citizens come up to you and you hear in and out, I'm not saying they can't, but try and make it as easy as possible. And hey, I'm open for suggestions, but just we're I don't know. I've said enough, so I'll yield, guys. You guys take over.
Okay.
This is Peter. I have a comment.
Sure.
I would propose, since this ordinance has been on the books for so long, and since the city has let it slide to a degree, I would propose that we operate under some kind of grace period to give people an opportunity to get rid of their vehicles, rather than giving them the 4 days or the 15 days limit.
Yeah, we'll discuss all that. I think we need to sit down and have something written out, and then, it doesn't go into effect until we approve it. So I think, to what Justin said earlier on the junk vehicle stuff or any of the nuisance ordinances, is to have those, to look at those again and redefine them, and then bring it to the council, and then we can vote on that. Nothing's set in stone until then. There's a lot of legwork before then, so I'd be okay with that. So.
Well, it sounds good. And to answer, I'm in favor of that, Councilman Davenport there. And before any of this, that's why there's in the ordinance itself there's a hearing, and there's extenuating circumstances. It's just not cut and dried. Both sides have to agree on something, and there's ways to deal with that. So I think we'll cover that. And you're on that committee too, Peter. So keep that in mind, or write it down so fresh, so I don't forget it.
Okay. Sherry, you had a question. Are you still on with us? All right, a public comment.
Yes, hi.
Okay.
Actually, the question may have been already answered. When you were discussing the water and sewer lines going to the 3 properties, I was wondering if the other 2 properties were paying their shares.
Yes. So what happens, and I just printed this out tonight, so obviously it's kind of new to me. I had to read through our municipal code, but yes, all 3 properties that were provided services were charged. One of the properties was not ready for that service to be put to their property yet. And as far as what I'm reading, at least at this point, that we can hold on to that charge until they are agreeable that they need it or want it. But yes, they have been charged. The bills have been sent, and I got to kind of decipher through the code.
Okay, well, thank you.
So I found it in our municipal code and made some copies, and it kind of takes a little bit of reading to figure out exactly how it works, but it's there.
In the work.
Yeah,
okay.
It's 3 pages, but I'm gonna keep working on that. But yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you bet. Okay, Any other public comment? We have quite a few people. We lost a couple, but does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, I don't hear any. That would bring me to adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn,
Second.
seconded by Peter. All in favor of adjourning at 9:29, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, that's everybody. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next go round.
Alrighty. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Good night, guys.
Good meeting, Nathan.
Thanks.